Hello and welcome, esteemed guests, to my channel. My name is Ainsley. Let's do stuff! Today's video is very exciting. It is my first ever collab on YouTube. This is the first part of an I Build You Furnish, where I build the house, and then Simnoobsie, who is an awesome content creator whose channel I will link below, is going to furnish it over on her channel. As of the time of this recording, I have not seen what she does with it, so I am super excited to go over to her channel and see how the final furnish looks. I am keeping all of my fingers and toes crossed that I was able to provide her with something that was workable, although she's so good at what she does that I'm sure even if I'd given her something awful, she'd have still made something fantastic out of it in the end. When I was building the shell, I was trying to do something that wasn't just like a box so that I could give her something interesting to work with. I know I've mentioned this in other videos, but I feel like I too often want to just build a box because it's the style of housing that's most prevalent where I'm from. We're talking bungalows on bungalows on bungalows. So when I get a chance to do something that's a little inventive with the roofline and with the build shape, I try to take that opportunity and run with it, even though, let me tell you, it makes roofing such a struggle. I left more of my struggle in than I normally would. When I go back and forth with the roof so much, I tend to cut a lot of it just because I don't find it's the most interesting thing to watch, but I wanted to keep a lot of it in because this house is actually a base game only build as well. Simnoobsie and I wanted to make something that was going to be accessible to a lot of the new players who've come into the game with the free base game that was available on Origin, and I figured that part of making the build accessible was to make the video of the build accessible and to show a bit of what I'm doing when I'm creating the roof line and when I'm trying to work out all the different peaks and all the different roof types. I am by no means a roofing expert. If you're looking for a true tutorial, this is not your video and I am not your gal, but I did think that it would be helpful to show little instances where I'm struggling and also to give little tips and tricks if I have them, which I don't always. But for instance, to get a very specific roof height, if you hold down, oh geez, and this is where I give away that I'm really not a tutorial channel, I believe it's either the Alt or the Shift, one of the two, but if you hold that down while you're raising the height of the roof, it lets you go in little increments and it doesn't force you to snap to a specific height. I'm also more of a stickler than I need to be for realistic roofing when I'm doing these builds. I know that it doesn't actually affect your roof if it's not steepled correctly or if you have areas in the roof line where water would puddle, because you don't get water damage in The Sims 4, but my brain won't shut off and it just keeps yelling at me that no, you'd have pools of water gathering where these two peaks meet and you can't have them be like that. So I play with the roof a lot more than I probably would have to try to get something that is really believable as a roof. And I'm a big fan of the old adage, practice makes perfect, so where I struggle with roofing so much, I've really been making a conscious effort to try to do things more complexly with my roofs to get more practice. There's a YouTuber that I really like, The Sim Supply, James Turner. He has a really good tutorial on roofing, and one of his big tricks that he said was to just start by building the biggest area of a roof that you can. Start by covering the biggest area that you can with a roof and build the rest of it around. So I do try to implement that where I can to make things a little bit easier on myself. I liked the way I had this wraparound roof with the hipped roof, but it didn't really work when I moved on to trying to do the rest of the roof line, so I actually do end up changing that. I get rid of all the A-line roofs altogether because I felt like they really didn't match with the slanted roofs, but what I did do was do another slanted roof pointing in the opposite direction, so it gives a bit of dimension and interest to the roof line of the house. Mark my words, the next build that I do is going to have a flat roof with just some half walls around the outside because I am at about my wit's end with roofing. I have been applying myself and now I'm just frustrated. I also really get frustrated quickly with big houses and big lots. I do not have the patience of a saint. I might if I weren't so meticulous and didn't have such a crazy attention to detail, but I do, so it takes a lot of my time and my energy to do big builds. That's what I really liked about doing this challenge. It let me build a bigger house, knowing that it wasn't going to be eating up all of my time, that it was going to be shared between the building and the furnishing so that I could try something different and do things that are kind of experimental and take my time with the roof and the floor plan and not feel like I was rushing to get a video done. And as someone who has watched Simnoobsie's content, I absolutely had no concerns that she would be able to knock it out of the park on her end with the furnishing. So it was really a fun time for me to just kick back and try doing some different stuff. I've been experimenting with fountains a lot in my builds recently and wraparound pools. So you'll see one of each in this build. Actually, there ends up being 3 fountains and 1 pool that wraps around at the back of the build. I also have kind of an overhanging roof because I imagined that that could be an outdoor entertaining space, but that you'd need some kind of shade cover. So here I am laying down the foundation to start that. I think Oasis Springs is my favorite world of all of the sim worlds. I know that's a discussion that goes around every so often. Which world is your favorite? Now, as far as things to do and the gameplay, I think I like San Myshuno the best, but as far as where I'd like to live, definitely Oasis Springs, or potentially also Del Sol Valley, though I do get really easily frustrated at how there is very little selection for lots in that world. I wish there was more there to choose from. But I do like a good desert world, and something tells me that if the pack we end up getting is a tropical world, I'll also really like that one, but not as much as a desert world. I prefer hot and dry to hot and humid. Humidity is just not my thing. Also, speaking of humidity, I'm sure it's not coming through on my mic, but it is thundering something fierce here right now. There's a bit of a storm rolling through. I saw a couple of flashes of lightning a few seconds ago. I'm crossing my fingers that I don't end up losing power. I was hoping to settle in with some Netflix once I finish editing this video and getting it scheduled to go up. I've been having a few days of just being kind of uninspired and kind of just slogging through, so I was hoping to kind of just veg out and turn my brain off for a minute. Actually, last night, which would have been Sunday night, I'm recording this on a Monday, I, for whatever reason, decided to watch the new Netflix movie, The Dirt. It's like a biopic about Motley Crue, and it was as good as you'd imagine a biopic about Motley Crue to be. The acting was actually pretty okay, but I mean, the script was kind of cheesy, and when you actually look at the story of Motley Crue, you realize that it's not very likable. They're not very likable. It is hard to summon up empathy for serial adulterer and vehicular manslaughterist. But then again, here I am still thinking about the movie almost 24 hours later, so obviously it did something right. It did enough things right to get me talking over all of my wall and floor choices anyway. I wanted to basically go with a sort of industrial, unfinished look with concrete and wood. I really like the look of concrete floors. I tried terracotta tile at first to see if I could get the same effect, but it wasn't really working as well as just some wooden paneling on the walls and actual concrete flooring, and there's that corrugated metal in the areas that I was imagining to be the bathroom anyway. I don't know if that's what Simnoobsie does with those areas. I'm curious to see. I also added in a skylight in the area that I imagined would be the master bedroom, and I changed the exterior wall colors only about a half a dozen times. I played around a lot in the interior too to get the right mix of woods and plaster / stucco, as well as the corrugated metal and the concrete floors. I was really drawing inspiration from those poured concrete countertops that usually are paired with very light wood tones. That's kind of the inspiration that I took to build the rest of the color palette for the house off of. And I got rid of this blue element that I had and instead went with a very metal staircase. I put the blue on the outside of the house instead in the siding. I'm curious to see if Simnoobsie has a cool color palette in her furnishings, or if it also is maybe a bit warm, like it definitely could be. There's enough warm tones in some of the woods, and it would probably bring a nice warmth and comforting atmosphere to the interior, which is very cold right now as I've designed it. And also there are 2 rooms in this floor plan that I just have no clue what they actually should be. The upstairs room, which I did section off, so like it could be a bedroom, it has that privacy, and also the door that has the door that leads out to the backyard. That room, again, could be a bedroom, but the door to the outside back patio is off there, so maybe she turns it into a dining room. I don't know. I'm really curious. Definitely make sure you do go check out her build after mine. I know that I will be running over there to check it out, not only because she's a great sim builder and her videos are great, but because she has been just such a sweet, lovely person to do this collab with. I approached her because I really like the builds that she's done. She has one particular sleeping with the fishes, which is just this cool partially underwater build, and I love the underwater build looks. And so I reached out to her first, and she was just so sweet and so into the idea of doing the collab and was really great to work with. And as I'm sure people will know, I'm pretty new to doing Sims on YouTube and pretty new to interacting with the Sims community in general. So I was a bit nervous to reach out, but really it's just been such an awesome process, and she's been really great and easy to work with and easy to get in touch with, and we've kind of been on the same page. So it's been really nice. I've really gotten a lot out of this experience. So I really do hope you go check out her video on her channel as well, and go check out the rest of her channel and subscribe. She has a couple of ongoing Let's Plays at the moment, and also does create a sim videos if build videos aren't typically your speed. Here you can see I'm just finishing up the landscaping. I'm adding a few plants and rocks around the harsh edges where the half walls end, just because I find it makes it look a bit more finished. Landscaping is definitely my least favorite part of the build process. It's kind of why I like to typically build on smaller lots to avoid it, but I did some here anyway. And that brings us to the end of the video, so be sure to head on over to Simnoobsie's channel to check out her furnish of the build. I'll leave a link in the description bar down below. I'll also link my Instagram and my Twitter, and you can download the shell of this house on the gallery. My origin ID is AinsleePlaysSims. The music in this video was done by Chucky. As always, I'll leave the link to his SoundCloud down below because you should definitely be checking him out as well. His music is fantastic. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. All of the interactions I have with you, I really appreciate. If you have any suggestions for a future build, also leave that in the comments below. With all that said, I'll leave you with the rest of the screenshots. Until next time, get out there and do stuff.